Malta has many interesting historical landmarks, such as 5,000-year-old temples, fossils from the Pleistocene epoch, old towns like Medina and Valletta. But something else that's extremely Maltese but hardly ever seen anymore are the old Maltese buses. Here's one that my dad got me. These kinds of buses appeared in Malta in the 1950s, but they were multicolored, representing the different routes that they took. Later in the 1970s, reforms happened under the Mint of administration that turned the Maltese buses into essentially cooperatives, where individual bus drivers owned and maintained their own buses. By 2011, the old Maltese buses seemed out of date, and there was a desire for an upgrade. So the government at the time brought a new company to take over. These new privatized buses were under the control of Arriva. So these privately owned buses got a variety of new different kinds of buses, including the bendy buses, which later became infamous for getting stuck in Maltese narrow roads. Needless to say, they were short-lived, and that marked the end of the old buses. The old buses were officially phased out in favor of the newer buses on the 3rd of July 2011, until the Arriva ones were also phased out in 2014 for the current fleet. But as you can see from this modern footage, the old buses are still around till this day. In fact, you can still ride them. A small company called Vintage Bus City Tours are still operating them till this day. They go from Valletta to Slema, then from Slema to St. Julian's. After that they go to St. Anton Gardens and then finish off in Medina. The Maltese people have a sort of nostalgia towards the old buses. Older Maltese people do reminisce the times when they caught the old buses to go to work. Similar to what the London Roadmaster buses have, it's sort of nostalgia. A lot of older Maltese people still love these buses, so much so that in November of 2021, the government actually released a plan to redesign the buses to make them look like the old Maltese buses. But since then, there has been no word on whether or not they're going to implement them. Since I still remember them and have fond memories of them, I decided to go on one and try it out. So I waited here in Valletta, and the bus that I was supposed to get, which was supposed to be here at 3 p.m, showed up a few minutes late, probably due to traffic. And the bus was surprisingly packed, filled with mainly tourists, although there were still a handful of seats that you could choose from. So I paid my fare and I sat down. The seats are really soft, and compared to the more contemporary buses, they're kind of fluffy, and also the floor has the weird metal rice pattern that I also remember, and the bus was really shaky. Eventually, most of the tourists hopped off by the time we arrived at the cinema ferries, and only a handful still remained, which then gave me more seats to choose from. From this video, you could really tell how shaky the buses were. And the buses were also really fast. Eventually, I did arrive at Medina and then I hopped off. And the bus would just wait here for around 30 minutes before it goes back to Valletta and repeats the whole process again. I love how ornate and detailed the buses are. And to be clear, these aren't replicas. These buses are restored and refurbished. They used to be very commonplace around a decade ago. At the end of the day, I suppose it was necessary for these buses to be retired, as they're simply not suitable for older people and disabled people. And with the amount of tourists that Malta gets, these buses simply would not cope. For now, they just might as well be a relic of the past.